it will also be showing us some tricks of how to really, come up with a very good report and dashboard. Well, I hope others will join this call because I don't know why they are not here, but we don't really have much time, so we just start. So, Mr. Efesa, you can take over, sir.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Hope you can hear me, please.
Yes, I can hear you clearly.
Okay, thank you. So basically, what we want to cover in this session, we are just going to be looking at some we're going to be looking at some design principles, wireframing, and visuals and design when it comes to Power BI, right? So I'm going to be sharing my screen shortly. So this is going to be more like a practical session, right? It's going to be more like a practical session. I'll just walk you through what I want to do. I already have something already, but I'll walk you through what I also want to do. But before we go into trying to practicalize everything, right? Let me start sharing my screen. Okay. Please let me know you can see my screen, please.
Yes, I can see your screen.
Okay, great. So when we want to look at designing reports, right? Generally in Power BI or reports generally, designing interactive reports, there's one thing I always tell people. So let's not get it wrong, right? Your analysis comes first. Before you get to this stage we are now, which means you're probably done with everything you want to do in terms of your data cleaning, your modeling, your analysis. And now what you then want to proceed to do is you want to put your reports together. You already have, probably you have your visuals created, but now you need to put everything together to tell a story. You need to put everything together. You need to make everything logical. And of course, since you're in Power BI, you probably want to create an interactive report. Now, when it comes to report design, everything begins with you offering your user a great experience. Now, there are two things. You can have a very good analysis and your presentation becomes poor. Your presentation, your communication becomes poor. Now, on the other hand, you can have a mild analysis, not really great, but your presentation is actually very great, right? But the goal now is to have a very great analysis and also have a very great presentation. We need a balance between the two. So most importantly, let's not get carried away. The analysis is very important. It comes first. The story we want to tell now comes last, which is what we want to do. We want to put everything together, we want to come up with the good stories, we want to make sure we're using the right visuals, we're using the right colors, and we want to make sure everything is the principles, the design principles are all well covered, right? So when it comes to design now, the first thing we then look at is layout. Because what do we want to do? We already have a report. We want to create a report. We need to define a layout for the report we want to create, right? We need to come up with a layout. In Power BI, I'll be switching between here and Power BI. In Power BI, we barely just have a plain background like this. Now, I've probably done some analysis on this data I've worked on. I've done my analysis. Now, I want to come up with my report, which means I then need to start creating a layout. Now, I'm not even talking about colors yet, right? I'm not after the colors yet. I have this great Canva here with me, very spacious Canva. How do I now ensure that the visuals I want to use for my reports, everything I want to do on this Canva. How do I come up with a great layout, right? Now, it's not magic, right? It's not magic. You just have to follow some certain principles. First, you need to make sure your layout is organized, right? I know the regular one we often see is you see your KPI cards up here, right? You probably have filters, you have menu pane, you have charts, you have trend and all that. Now, it's very important that you have a layout that is well organized, right? Now, there are two things. Oftentimes, you see people create a layout in Power BI here, right? There are times you also see people leverage on using PowerPoint to create the layout, create your wireframe, then you bring the background to Power BI. You can even use Canva, you can use Figma, whichever one. But the goal is you have a great layout, you bring it to Power BI, and you create your report. Me, I use Power BI sometimes. I use PowerPoint to bring in my layout, my backgrounds to Power BI. So whichever one I want to use. But for the sake of this demo, right, this session, I would use Power BI. At the same time, I will use PowerPoint, right? Now, let me just walk you through what I have on my screen right now. What I have on my screen is a report about a food delivery service, right? A very popular food delivery service. Please, for the sake of this session, not for the sake of this session, this data you're seeing on my screen for this food delivery service is not a real data. It's a data I had to, I generated myself using AI just to tailor it to the food delivery service. And I'm talking about Chowdeck, right? Now, if you look at Chowdeck, you discover that if you've used Chowdeck to order food or order anything, you discover that, let me quickly navigate there and see. So if I open Chowdeck, okay, cart is empty. Okay, so if I open Chowdeck, you discover that for every order you make, right? When you look at your order, you see this timeline here. The order is received, preparing order, rider accepted, rider at vendor, rider picked up, order arrived, order delivered, right? So I generated data for this process, right? Let's say we have about 5,000 orders, right? We have the different timeline for the orders. So what I'm looking at is I want to see if I can analyze what we call the delivery efficiency. How efficient is our delivery system when it comes to Chowdeck? That's what this data is all about. Now, I've done some analysis, right? My analysis centers on the total orders, the time it takes to deliver and all that. So once I'm done with that, the next thing I will then look at is to come up with a layout. I've written all my measures. I've written my DAX measures here already. I've written some measures I want to work with. That's why I said the design, the layout, the wireframe is the last thing you ought to do, which means you're done with your analysis. I'm actually done with the analysis. I've written all the measures I want to write. Now, the next thing that brings me, I'm trying to look for a layout. I'm trying to come up with a layout. Now, don't be deceived also, right? We all search for inspiration. There are a lot of tools online you can actually leverage. So don't get scared. You can always leverage a lot of tools online, right? So if I come back to what we have here, you see, first thing is you have to have an organized layout. Then you also have to have a logical grouping. When I mean logical grouping, right? I've seen some reports where now your report is supposed to be designed for your user to read it from the left to the right. Now, I've seen some reports where when you talk about logical grouping, let me click on scattered, where you see a KPI, maybe you see a KPI that starts with, how will I put it now? It starts, now look at what is happening here, logical grouping. If I click on logical grouping, you see, we start with revenue, we proceed to orders, then we proceed to growth. But if I click on scattered, you see, it starts with orders, revenue, growth. Now, what it's basically trying to tell you here is you should have a logic for your grouping. I've seen some reports where you just see a KPI card, from customers, you just go straight to revenue. From revenue, you just go straight to discount. From discount, you just go to something else. So what we're trying to say here is you should have a logical grouping. Walk me through. Think like the user. How do you progress? Ideally, if I'm operating a business and a sales business, I would want to progress from knowing my total orders, from knowing the sales I made, from knowing the profit I got, the quantity, then I want to know the profits, then I can talk about the growth and any other thing I want to talk about, right? So there should be a logical grouping, right? A logical grouping. Then when it comes to colors, we'll talk about colors shortly as we proceed. Then we need to talk about spacing also, right? I've seen people design reports, and sometimes, is LinkedIn, you can't just criticize people like that. It takes a lot of effort to create reports. So let's say I'm trying to create a wireframe here or a layout here. Then I say this is going to be my menu bar. Then I have a bunch of KPI cards up here, right? Now, importantly, there's something we neglect also. Now, if I have these KPI cards, right? Let's say Control C, Control V, Control C, Control V. I have these KPI cards. As many KPI cards that you want to have up here. But I have one rule. I don't use more than 6 KPI cards on a report page, right? Not more than 6 KPI cards. So I don't want a situation where you have 7 KPI cards up here. It should not be more than 6, max 6, right? Now, these KPI cards, I've seen situations where you see alignment that are not so straight, right? First, you see the space between this one. The space is here. One is like this, one is like this, one is like this. Now, there's no consistent spacing between these KPI cards, right? There's no consistent spacing. And it's very important for you to maintain this, which is called white space. In Power BI here, it's pretty quite easy. All you need to do is just set a space you want to take here. I can actually come to view, and sometimes these grid lines, they work well. So I can add the grid lines just to guide me, right? You can set a space you want here, also replicate the same space here, right? Then all you need to do is just select this first one, hold Control, select the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and come to Format, Align, and say Distribute horizontally. This ensures that the spacing between this, they are all the same, right? And interestingly, when you try to move this up, you see this red line, which tells you that, okay, they are all of the same size, but ideally I'll select one of them, check the size, right? General properties, check the size, then I can select all and make sure they are all sized the same. So it's very important for you to maintain the white space. The spacing is very important also. Now, alignment, that's what we just did now. First, you make sure everything is also well aligned, right? Those are the things you need to consider when it comes to creating your report, right? Then you talk about topography and fonts. Yes, this is very important also. Let me show you this report I'm working on here. If I open this report I'm working on right now, if I click on the font color, font style here, if I come to visualization and I come to format, colored value, you see the font style is DIN, right? If I click on this, you see the font style is DIN all through. If I come down here, you see the font style also. Let me show you the font style. If I come to XRZ, you see the font style is DIN. You shouldn't have more than two font style. But for me also, I like to use one font style, which means if I'm going to use DIN, please just maintain using DIN all through the report. Don't go using one font style for your KPI card. You use another font style for your text. Use another font style for maybe your charts. No, you have to keep the font style consistent. Also, when it comes to font sizes, remember, sometimes when we're creating our reports, we're creating the report on a big screen. right? So when you use a font size that is actually 12, you are assuming me that is going to view this report on my laptop I'll be able to see that font size, but it's always not like that. So since you're using a big screen, it's bigger. So 12 will normally look okay for you, but 12 is actually not okay. The reason I'm saying this is, remember the people you are sending this report to, right? I don't think my boss is going to be opening my reports on a big screen. Sometimes you just open it on his tablet or on his laptop. So you have to take that into consideration also. Take that into consideration also, right? Then, of course, visual alignment. When it comes to color consistency, we'll talk about this more. Then visual alignment. Visual alignment centers on, now, I make a copy of this. I have a visual here, right? I'll place one visual here, for example. Then down here, I want another visual, but it's not aligned with what I have up here. So why do you want to work with a layout like this? Why would you want to create a layout that looks somewhat like this? The visuals, these are going to be visuals you're placing here. But in the recent, I've seen reports like this where visuals are not well aligned, right? The visuals are not well aligned. They are not well aligned. So visual alignment is also very important, right? Very, very important. Then, of course, like I said, consistency. You need to maintain some level of consistency. What do I mean from level of consistency? If you are using, so look at what is going on here. If I say inconsistent, look at what is happening. You see 85%, 42 customers, 98%. Everything is just inconsistent. But see the level of consistency maintained here, 85%. Everything is well aligned. I'm using same font size, same font size, same font size. What I have underneath here, category label, same style, right? You need to ensure your consistency also, very important. Now, when it comes to some UI design best practices, applying this get start principle, right? Proximity, group related items, right? So if you have items that are together, items that are related, right? Items that are related, you can actually group them together. So your user can actually just relate to those items when your user looks at your report. You can easily just relate to those items, right? You look at it, you relate to them. Example, if I come here and this visual, for example, is going to be about sales by, let's say, sales category, right? Let's say I create a visual here. I say sales category. Should I create a visual? Yeah, I think I should create one visual here for us to see. So say I bring a visual, right? And I just say something like, I want to look at orders. I say total orders. Then I say this total orders by, let's say, category, order category, right? So this is order by order category, right? Then I have another visual down here that talks about same orders, right? But let's say this is looking at, what do I use here? Let me just say shop name, right? These two visuals, they are related in a way because I'm looking at the other categories and I'm looking at the orders across the shop name. So in the recent, I can have a grouping in the sense that I can have a layout that covers these two and I place these two together inside this layout, right? Let's say other category is not here, right? Then I'm probably using something like delivery location, right? So these two. So this is looking at the shop and the delivery location. Ideally, what I would do if I'm going to do this, I'll bring the shop upwards, I'll bring delivery location downward, which means these are the shop the orders received. These are the locations the order are going to. So I can group these two together in one box, right? I can put them in one wireframe here, group them together. Two of them will be here. So this automatically offers my user. Now look at the way I'm thinking. I'm looking at it. Oh, these are the orders from the different shop. These are the locations the order are going to. Easy. So always put that in mind also, right? Then visual hierarchy. you should establish some level of visual hierarchy when you are creating your report, right? Determine which visuals should come first, right? Use construct to highlight key metrics. You already know that when you know that there are some metrics you want to highlight, you want to show that are very important, you can logically just apply them, apply some level of conditional formatting to draw your users' attention to those metrics, right? Then, of course, intuitive interactivity, right? We already know that using slicers, using buttons, but you have to then be careful the amount of slicers and buttons you want to apply to your reports. Because remember, the people that are going to use this report, if it's just data analyst you are designing the report for, it's going to be quite easy, right? You can just do anything they would understand. But think about these people you are designing this report for. Some of them, they really don't, they don't even know what slicers are or buttons are. So you should always have that in mind also. Then, of course, the planning phase. The planning phase is we need to sketch for this report, for example, we need to sketch out what we want to do. It's always very important. What I do before I even come up to start building any report, I'll just have a sheet of paper and try to sketch out what I really want to do. You start with a sketch before building the Power BI. You define your user journey and information flow. How do I want this information to flow, right? You identify the key questions the user you need to answer for the user. Those are the things you need to put in mind when you are creating this report. Like I said, remember, you're not creating the report for yourself at all. You're not creating the report for yourself. You're creating it for a user, right? Then, of course, you would go to one thing I do also, I can send my reports, I can give my report to someone that is more like a user that is not an analyst in any way. And I try to ask the person, just play with this report. What do you see when you look at this report? What comes to your mind? What is the first thing you see when you look at this report? So you can try that also, and you see the feedback you're going to get from them. Sometimes you give them the report and they don't even understand what is on the report. Now, if you have a very good report, once you look at the report, the title, everything on the visuals, they can easily relate. And if that works for you, that means you're actually heading on the right path already. So with that being said, right, I'll share this with you guys. I want this session to be more like a practical session, right? Working on what I have here already. So I'll just delete this page. First, I'll make a duplicate of this page. So what do I do when I'm done? When I'm done with my analysis, the first thing I do is I try to look for some sort of inspiration to create my reports. And when I mean by some sort of inspiration, first, their website already, UI, UX design website, UI website that I go to. We are all familiar with these websites. I'll just go to those websites and try to look for any reports that would inspire me, right? And I'm going to work with a practical example of this child deck delivery efficiency I have here already, right? So one of the websites, of course, we know these websites already, is Dribbble, dribbble.com. So when you open Dribbble, now one thing I've seen people try to do is when they open Dribbble, they try to look for a report in Dribbble and they want to replicate that same report the way it looks like in Dribbble in Power BI. But that's not the goal here. That's not what we want to do here. So basically, what I look at is I can just type sales or I'll search for any report I want to look for, sales or e-commerce, whichever one. Then I'll start looking at the different reports options that have been given to me, right? The reason I come here, right, to get inspiration is because some of the principles you want to implement in your reports, the creators of these designs, they've implemented those principles already. When it comes to color, when it comes to alignment, all the principles you can think of, they've implemented them already. Look at this report, for example. Look at this report I'm currently showing you. Look at the spacing, the white space. You can see the user, see the white space, see the visuals, the size, see the font style, everything you would want to implement in your Power BI report. This user already implemented it. That's one of the reasons I come here to get some sort of inspiration. You're going to see a lot of reports. Now, you're not going to see the report that looks exactly like what you want to create. No, that's not the goal. You're not going to see the report that looks like exactly like what you want to create. No, you will find a lot of designs, a lot of inspiration. Just when you scroll down, you look through, you find the report with different colors. If I open this up, if I am doing something about expenses and revenue and all that, now look at what this user has done here. First, the user is looking at the income, the order, the profit, and the expense. Now, if you pay attention to this user, look at the way he used the color here, right? If I select this report now, look at the way this user used the color. When it comes to expense, the bar chart you have here is actually red, right? When it comes to profit, the bar chart you have here is actually green. Then every other one is just a mixture of the color. But the colors here, they don't throw the entire report off. And if you look at the white spacing also, you can see the user maintain the same white space. Look at the white space, look at the structure. Now, like I said, you're not going to see exactly like the reports you have here and you just create it in part. Your data set is not even like this. Your data set will probably be something else entirely. But you can leverage on what you have here and create something similar. So when you come to Dribble, you're going to find a lot of reports on Dribble that you can actually leverage on also. Now, the next one I'll also go to look for inspiration a lot is Pinterest, right? We also know Pinterest already. So you see a lot of dashboards, a lot of reports in Pinterest also. You find a lot of them here. Now, it's up to you. Like I said, you're not going to see exactly what you're looking for here, but you're going to see a lot of report that you can draw inspiration from. The principles has already been covered. Like if I open this report, no, I don't want to visit the website. Now, look at this report. I already love this report. I love the colors. I love the feel. I love the way the report is actually structured, right? But it's looking somehow busy for me, right? But I can leverage on this design and create something similar, right? I can leverage on it and create something similar. So you can come here, look for any report that inspires you. Then you can go ahead and try to create that, leverage on this design and create it on your own end to create your report. Now, let me just give you an example of what I've done, right? So I hope you can see my screen, please.
Yes, it's clear. You can see it.
Okay. So now, like I said, I'm trying to create a report, and this report, I'm looking at it and I'm telling myself that this report, I want to present this report to, let's say, the team lead for ChildDeck when it comes to delivery. That's the person I'm targeting to present this report to. The first thing I have done is, first, I'm leveraging on, so if you're working for a company, those companies most times, they have a color choice already, right? And I'm looking at ChildDeck. I know if you go to their website, their color is actually this green color you have here, right? So I have that in mind already. This was the first layout I created. But then I was asking myself a lot of questions when I created this layout. I was like, this layout, yeah, it looks great, but I don't think I'll be able to tell my story using this layout, right? Now, I created another layout. Now, before I created that layout, I have 3 designs I took from Pinterest here. These are the 3. There are 3 actually. I ended up using this very one you're seeing on my screen now, this one. This was the one I drew my inspiration from. I was like, okay, the green you have here is actually, I can actually use the ChildDeck green, right? You can see the KPI cards up here already. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like I said, I don't use more than 6 KPI cards in my report, right? Now, with leveraging on this, I was able to create this, right? Like I said, your data is not exactly like what you have there, but I've used everything I have here to create what I have here right now. And how did I do that? It's quite easy. It's not even difficult. First thing I did was I saw this design somewhere here in Pinterest. But so I'm just going to pick any design now. I'm going to pick a design here. So we can actually just experiment on that. Which design am I going to pick? Okay, so I open this. I just want something simple. Okay, I've used this before. Just look for any design. I'm not inspired by anyone here. Oh, well, this looks nice, but I don't think we have time to create this. Okay. Okay. Please, organizer, remember to share me your mail so I can share you some Power BI background that has been designed already. So I have some Power BI background design already here. I'll send them to you. You can share them with
Okay, sure.
PowerPoint, right? You can export them to Power BI to create your report, right? You export them to Power BI to create your report. Please remind me, I'll send you. These designs were not created by me. I think somebody gave me this a long time ago, but I added some of my own also. So this is actually mine. This is 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 mine. Mine. I added some of my own. So you can just go through it, send me your email. Now, one thing I've done also, you can see this was the report I saw on Pinterest, right? This was the report I saw. This was a design I created from this report. This is where I got my inspiration from, and this is what I created, right? This is actually where I got my inspiration from also, and this is what I created. So I have a lot of designs here. You just send me your email. I'll forward this to you. You can share with everyone in the session. Share with everyone in the session. I'll just send it to your email. So we have a lot of them here, right? So for this child deck, you can see where I got the inspiration from already. This is where I got the inspiration from. This is where I got the inspiration from. And I have created a sample of what I want here. So this is what I created now. Eventually, I think I settled for this, right? I settled for this. Then I took it to Power BI. So this is the sample of what I have in Power BI, right? You can see my KPI cards up here. These are the KPI cards I have up here. But what have I done here? There are two things I've done here if you look at this report carefully. First, I have the maximum of what? 6 KPI cards, like I told you. I'm using the same font style all across. I'm using the spacing. Look at the spacing carefully, right? Now, importantly, I'm trying to draw my user. I'm trying to draw attention to some of these things I've done already. Now, the red color is very careful. The red color, I'm trying to tell my user something. When you look at the red color, you definitely know something is wrong. So let me walk you through this report very briefly. First, I'm looking at the orders so far, the total orders, right? I'm actually on 2025, but let me come to 2024, right? Or 2023. If I come to 2023, you discover that everything I have down here is showing no data. That's because there is no data for 2022. I don't have 2022 data, right? There's no 2022 data. So there's no comparison to make. But as at 2023, we had 366 orders, right? So when I come to 2024, my attention just goes, the attention, the red color draws my user's attention to, as at 2023, you had 336 orders. If you come to 2024, it's 329 orders. You dropped by 10%, right? That's the information I'm trying to pass to my user. So the red color automatically highlights that something is wrong. I want your attention to be drawn there. Now, also the red color you're seeing here does the same thing. The red color you're seeing here does the same thing, right? Now, for the child deck, for example, I know the green is their color, but I'm very careful on how I use the green here also. Then for every other thing that is okay, for the red, I'm trying to draw your attention to it, right? Now, this is the order preparation. Order preparation is simply you receive an order, right? Then you start preparing the order. There are situations where a restaurant or wherever the order is going to, they receive the order. The target is 5 minutes after receiving your order. You should start preparing your order. But what we're having now is there are some situations where some people don't start preparing their order within that 5 minutes. They took longer time to start preparing the order, because immediately you receive the order, after like 5 minutes, you should start preparing the order. That's just the idea behind this, right? Now, when it comes to delivering the order, there is already an expected time. If you order from ChildDeck, you see that your order will be ready in so minutes, right? So there's already an expected delivery time. You place an order, we expect you to deliver that order to be delivered to you within maybe 30 minutes or so. Now, what was the actual time that order was delivered to you? So if the order was supposed to get to you in 30 minutes, but it's getting to you after 30 minutes or 35 minutes later or 40 minutes later, that order was actually delayed, right? That's the information I'm trying to pass here. So for 2024, you can see that 80% of the orders were delayed. Now, watch what I've done here. I'm trying to give my user a structure. First, you look at the orders. Everything here is speaking about the order. Then this is speaking about the target, right? Look at these two visuals. They are side by side. In terms of preparation, you look at the target. In terms of delivery, you look at the target. Now, I'm telling my user that 80% of the orders are delayed. But underneath it, you can easily just come to how long the orders were delayed. I'm giving my user a structure. I'm trying to make my user follow my story. Very straightforward story. Look at the orders. Look at the ones that are within preparation target and above preparation target. Look at the ones that are below delivery target and within delivery target, which are delayed. Now look at how long they were delayed, right? So in the recent, you can see that 1 to 5 minutes, most of the orders were delayed between 1 to 5 minutes, some 6 to 10. So I'm offering my user a structured story. The KPI cards are well aligned and grouped. My color choice, of course, since I'm working for a company in this sense, I'm not working for ChildDeck anyway. Since I'm working for ChildDeck in this scenario, I'm using the company's color, and I'm very careful on how I use the company's color. And I'm adding red. Of course, we always take red to be danger, but I'm using the red to point out, yes, these are the dangers. These are the dangers you are likely to encounter, right? Now, the report is now following that particular structure. I also have slicers, right? My slicers are well positioned for my user to be able to interact with the report without any stress, right? I have instruction here. I'm telling you to select the KPI. So I'm offering my user, right, an option. The instruction is clear, select KPI, right? So the user can actually select any KPI of choice, right? I'm still working on the report in the recent, I'm just playing around. But I have to make sure my slicers are well positioned in terms of drawing the user's attention to those slicers, right? To those filters. Now, this is a particular category we are looking at. I'll have to format this much more later. We can switch to a different category, say food, right? We can switch to another category, say medications. Now, I'm offering my user the ability to treat one category at a time. I'm saying, look at this category, look at their problem. Look at this category, look at their problem, right? I'm giving my user that option also. Then, of course, you can now look at the different delivery location, the orders received, the delay, and the delay percent. I'm also offering the user the ability to switch to the shop name. Because when you talk about the delay is actually associated to the location and the shop. So you're looking at the shop, you're looking at the location also. So all this is me trying to give my user the best insight at the same time, ensuring that all the design principles are maintained, right? Give my user, the story also is structured. I'm coming from you seeing the orders on a monthly level when you select a particular year, to you seeing where the problem is, to you seeing the level of the problem, right? Then for you seeing the different shops, the different what is it called? The locations responsible for the problem we're trying to tackle. What is the problem we're trying to tackle in the recent? We're trying to improve delivery efficiency. That's what we're trying to do. So you should always have this in mind. Then when it comes to colors, right? When it comes to colors, you always have to be careful. There are a lot of places you can actually get colors, right? Just the way you have these designs here, there are a lot of places you can actually get colors. But one of the places I get my color is colorhunt.co. Colorhunt.co. So the reason I come here a lot, Colorhunt gives you a lot of options, right? I like to come to all time, right? So these are all time. All time simply tell you that these are the colors people have used over time, right? These are the colors people have used over time, right? Now, one thing about Colorhunt, you are going to see there are situations where you see a gradient fill. There are situations where you see a categorical fill, right? A gradient fill, look at this now, is a gradient fill. You proceed from a darker one to a light to lighter to very light one, right? So now, remember, like I said, if you're working for, so there's something I saw. I know I said, you think about if you're working in a company, for example, of course, the company, they have some color choice already, right? Like the company I work for, their color choice is always yellow and black. So now that the color choice is yellow and black, so imagine me creating a report and the chart has to be, the bar chart or the line chart has to be yellow. We can tell how that is going to look. So you always have to be careful. The fact that, okay, the company, the color is yellow and black doesn't necessarily mean that everything, just go and put all the bar chart, yellow, 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 everything yellow. You have to look for a balance. You can actually use a third color that is in between those colors, right? That would enable you to blend. For example, look at this child deck, for example, now. This color I have down here is not their color in the recent. Their color is just this green and this, I think is yellow color or gold color here. But you can see in this report, I don't have any gold color anywhere, right? So look for that blend. When you come here, this place, what they've done is they've given you a lot of color options so you don't go astray. I've seen reports where you will just see one blue color or one red color or purple or one color like that. Then from nowhere you see another color again. Sometimes I'm wondering how did you even come up to combine this color together? These two colors, how did you come up to combine them together? Right? I'm always thinking like, how did you even manage to combine these two colors together? Let me see if I can find the reports where I use something like that. Let me quickly look for. I don't know if this. There's a report I created not quite long. I don't think the report is here. Okay, I would want to show you that so you can easily just see what I'm trying to talk about. But I'm not sure that report is here. No. Can't find it. It has something to do with light mode and dark mode. Let me just browse if I'll see it. Just 1 second, please. All data. IT support. I don't think it's this, but let me just open this and see. So you have to be careful when you're doing that, right? So they have these color options for you already, right? You can scroll, we have a lot of color options here. Now you can come to the pastel, right? You see how this looks? You can come to the vintage colors. When you talk about vintage colors also, the retro, you have a lot of options here. Dark, right? So this is one of them. I'll share this with you also. right? So basically, I'll just be dropping the link on your, I've gotten your email, so I'll send you the PowerPoint file, then these links also for the color. So I'll just come to popular all time. Then another site I normally use, I use this site a lot when I want to do a gradient fill, more like a gradient fill, right? That's Color Brewer. That's Color Brewer. I use Color Brewer also. Color Brewer doesn't offer you much, but I'm able to get some sequential color, right? You can see the sequential color and you can see the gradient fill. This is sequential, right? It follows a particular sequence. Now you have just 3 here, 1, 2, 3. You can actually increase this from 3 to like 9. So you have from this dark blue up here, right? So I use Color Brewer also. So I'll just share this link with you also. colorbrewer.org. I'll share this link with you also. So you have to be careful when selecting your colors because the colors that's a part of your story, right? If you give me a report and I'm seeing red, you are trying to tell me that this is bad because red is typically associated with anything that is bad. If something is bad, everyone tends to associate red with that, either red or black or dark. Then anything green, they tend to think that, oh, this is green, that means it's good, right? It's green, that means it's good also. So they tend to associate that with anything that is good. So very quickly, I'll just do a very simple demo to tell you that creating background in PowerPoint is very easy. You don't even need to stress yourself. It's not really difficult at all. So I'll open a blank slide. This is the blank slide, right? Just a blank slide. Now, if I come to one of these websites and let me look for one of these reports and let's just practicalize, say we want to create a report and something like that. I'm not seeing the one I actually like. This looks great, but it's not what I want. Then, okay. Let me just type sales here. Or business. Okay. Okay, say we want to work with something like this, right? Like I said, or something like this. Say we want to work with something like this. Whichever one in makes sense. I think this looks nice too. So first thing I do is I will have to take a snapshot of this, right? I'll just take a snapshot of it, what I have here. I'll take a snapshot of it. So basically what I'll do is just use the sniping tool on my system, this sniping app tool. I'll select, then I'll just take a snapshot of this like this. So once I take the snapshot, I'll copy it. I'll bring it to my PowerPoint. I'll paste this right here. So this is it, right? Now, this looks very simple. It's not really difficult. So one thing I also love to point out, that you have it like this here doesn't necessarily mean it's going to look like this. I just want to take the design. That's what I'm after. My report is not necessarily going to be structured like this, but I love this design. It's quite simple and easy. So I want to leverage on it, right? That's what I want to do. So up there, we have something that is dark. Down here, we have something like, what is it called? Ash, right? Then you have the cards, they are layered on top of it, right? So how do we create something like this? Like I said, it's quite simple. So what I have up here is a shape, right? But the shape is actually having some curved end. So what I'll do, this background already, it's okay. It's actually white. I don't think we need to do anything about it. It's actually white. So first thing I'll do is just come to home, then come to shapes here. If you look at this shape, I'm going to pick this rectangle with top rounded corners top corners rounded. I'm just going to select it. Then I'm going to be able to draw, right? Now, this is me trying to create what we have up here, right? So if I just place this here, for example, take it up a bit and increase the size, right? I'll just give a little space. Now, I can determine how I want this curve to flow, right? This curve I have here. See, this one is more sharper. So you can actually just use this orange dot here. You push it in, you see, you push it out a bit, you see, you can determine how you want the curve to, how much you want it to go. So let's say we'll have something like this, right? So this is practically it. We're actually done with the first part of it. All we need to do is just drag this down a bit. Then we have to reduce the curve a bit to something like this. So I have something like this, which is what I'm assuming to be this up part of the report. But then what of the color? Now, one very important thing for me to make sure that I'm using these colors that are actually here, I'll select this shape. Now, if you don't have this background here, make sure nothing is selected. Just right click and say format background. You have this option here. It comes out here. So I'll select this shape. I'll come to the shape fill. This is the shape fill, solid fill. I'll click on the color. Then I'll take this eyedropper. I'll select this eyedropper and I'll pick the color, right? I'll just pick the color. So I have the dark color, exactly like what I have here. So next, I'll make sure that there is no line. No line. I'll just say no line. Then I can actually adjust this a bit to look like this. So that's just for the more like the up part of the report, right? Then we have also on the downside of it, right? So one thing I can quickly do is select this up one, just say Control C, Control V, and make a copy of it, right? Now I've made a copy of it. Then I'll just select top here and drag it down. So I'll turn it the other way around, right? So I'll just place it underneath what I have here. Then I'll send this to front so we can see it. I'll place it underneath and I'll drag down, right? Now the edge also, I have to make sure it's close to what we have up there, right? Now what about the fill? This is actually the fill down here. It looks like this ash color fill also. So to make sure I'm using that same color, I'll come to this solid fill again, select the eyedropper and just select this color. So now look at it, it's quite simple. Now I have the first layout figured out already. Now I have my KPI cards. Depends on the number of KPI cards I have in my report. That's what I'm going to use here, right? Let's say I have 6 KPI cards, just like what I have for this child deck, right? That means I need to bring in a rectangle with rounded corners. Again, I'll select, I'll draw here, right? Then I'll just watch out for the rounded corners, right? I'll just watch, I'll place. Now I'm placing this rectangle more like just half of it. See, I'm trying to make sure that at the middle point is actually tied to what we have here. But it's actually up to you. I'm not sure they follow that principle here, but that's what I want to do here. Or you can just bring it down a bit. Now, I think this is white, but for me to make sure it's white also, I'll just use the eyedropper. I know it's white, but I'll just select. Then I'll come to the line fill and say no line. But so this is it, right? So let's just ensure the rounded corners are not so sharp. Okay. Now let's reduce this a bit. So I can make how many copies of these 6? I can say this is 1, this is 2. Now watch the alignment. Immediately I place this here, you can see the spacing. Watch the spacing between this, and this. The red, you can see the red line is trying to tell me that it's the same size, they are both well aligned. But that's fine. I'm not really going to take note of that for now. I'm just going to bring in the third one, right? Bring in the fourth one. I'll bring in the fifth one, right? So there's no space for the sixth one, but that's fine. Let me just bring in one last one. So I place this here. So what I'll do is, since I want 6, I'll just reduce the size. So I'll come to shape. I'll see size. I'll just reduce the size so I can reduce all of them at once. Let's say I want to use this, right? So it's looking, I know there are 2 here. That's fine. So the next thing I'll do is I'll just place this. I'll take it to the edge a bit and make sure this is well aligned also, right? Now, watch what is happening. You see, immediately I'm still holding my cursor, but you can see the distance between what I have, the KPI card that is actually starting it and the KPI card that is actually ending it. You can see that it's actually same, right? So once I have that figured out, next I'll select the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. Then I'll come to shape, I'll align, then I'll say distribute vertically. Oh, what is going on? Did I select another one? I have 2 shapes here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Align, distribute. Sorry, not vertically, actually, horizontally. So once I say distribute horizontally, you're going to see I now have the consistent space between this, right? The space is now consistent. Now, I don't think I have the feel I have here yet. I don't think I have that feel here. So there are always 2 ways to go about it, right? One thing we can try out, when you select this shape, you can come to shape format, right? You can come to shape effects. Then you have the presets, right? This is the preset. If you hover on any preset, you see the effect of that preset on your shape. So watch the preset, right? Watch this. Are you seeing this preset I just hover on now? Watch this preset, watch this preset, watch this. So there are different presets, right? If you hover on them, you see the effect of those presets on your KPI card. Let's say you're using this, for example. You see the effect of this preset on your KPI card. I can select this and just come to home, say Format Painter and drop it on this, right? And drop it on each and every one of them. Then I'm using this preset. I know you've seen this in some person's reports before now. At the same time, I can just say Control Z. Then what I'll do next is select one of this KPI card, come to line and say solid line. But now this is the line color. This is not the line color I want. So what I'll do next is I'll change this line color. I'll probably just select one of these ash colors here. But it's still thick. I'll take the lighter ash color and reduce the line width to like 0.5. So I have something like this. So I can just replicate this to all the card, right? To all these cards I have here, right? So it's looking more like what I want here already. So next is for you to determine the layout, right? One thing I do is to ensure consistency between the spacing, right? The spacing. So if it depends on how your report is actually structured, right? There are times you probably would have something like this, and let's just reduce this a bit. I'll just delete this now, because at this point, I don't think I need it anymore. It depends on the structure of my report. That was to determine what I'm going to have here, but always maintain. So the spacing I'm going to have between my visuals here, this layout here, I'm going to ensure that the spacing is same with what I have up here, right? What I have up here. But it's not necessary that it must be the same, it must stop at the same point. No, I can have something like this, right? I can make a copy of this and have something down here also. It depends on like I said, it depends on your visual, what you're working with. Now, watch, this is how I just get to detect that the space up there and the space down here, they are actually same. So in the end, you're going to create your visuals around this report. Now, finally, I deleted that report already, but there's something we missed out, right? Icons. So there are times you see some icons in some reports. There are times you don't see any icons, right? So it depends on your reports and it depends on your user, right? But icons also, they are meant to also assist with your storytelling, right? Now, for this report also, they have some spaces for icons. So let's say we want to bring in those icons, right? So I can just come here and select the rounded corners and just draw the shape here because the icons, they are placed here, right? One funny thing I've done now is I just ensure, okay, so this is the space that is supposed to accommodate our icons. But this color is actually looking like a very light blue. I don't know that color. So what I'll do is select this shape, right? Come to format, that's color, eyedrop. Then I'll just drop it up here to pick that same color. And I'll say no line. So you can see I'm using the exact color I have here. I'm using that same color here. In the end, we can make a copy of this, right? Now, if I make a copy of this, watch what happens. If I drag it here, same, watch the red line. Now watch what happens. You see, everything is well aligned from top, from bottom, from left, from right, right? The alignment is in order. So you need to do same 6 card visuals you have here. Now, what happens if you want to bring in your icons, right? You want to bring in your icons. Let's say this, for example, is talking about orders or sales or something or customers. So for the icons, I normally use, I know there are a lot of websites for icons, but my favorite is actually flaticons.com. And there's a reason I love to use flat icons. That's because I'm able to manipulate the color of my icons. That's one of the reasons I've also shared the link with you. I'm able to manipulate the color of my icons. So when you open flaticons.com, please open up, you will discover that you can actually search for icons, right? We have a variety of icons. So I want to search for icons and let's say I want to say sales, right? Sales, then let's say sales and orders and all that. So if I say sales, you still log in. If I just say sales, it will give me the different icons for that you can actually use for sales, right? Now, I want to draw your attention to something because I used to make this mistake before now. If you're going to use a field icon, consistently use a field icon. What do I mean by a field icon? This icon is actually a field icon. You see, it's field. This icon is a field icon. This one is not a field icon. Between these two, this one is a field icon. This one is not a field icon, right? It's not filled with color. This one is actually empty. It's just the border. But if you're going to use a field icon, use a field icon all through. If you're going to use a border icon, use a border icon all through. Don't use a field icon. Then the next thing for the next icon, you're using a field icon, right? So let's talk about sales. Say I want to use a field icon for the sales, right? If I select this icon, right, I can change the color. But let's say we're using black. So we're using black in the vSense. So I can just come to download. I'll just download as a PNG free download. It's actually free. Just make sure you register and log in. So it's supposed to download. Please download. So yes, once it's downloaded, I can come to PowerPoint, right? Next, I'll come to insert. I'll just say pictures, this device. I'll go to my downloads. Then I'll just select the growth, which is more like the sales icon. Then I'll just reduce the size. But one thing I do, whatever size I'm going to use also, right? If I place this here now, whatever size I'm going to use, I'll make sure that it's the same size I'm going to use for all the icons. So if I'm using 0.5, all the icons I'm bringing is going to be 0.5, right? Now, for this report, you can actually see they didn't use a fill icon. Now, look at what I said. This user is actually using a border icon and is using a border icon all through. You didn't see anywhere you use a field icon. So consistency in terms of icon. So now that we're using a field icon, which means if we're bringing another icon here and say that icon is for customers, we're also going to use our orders. We're also going to use a field icon. So if I type orders here, for example, and if it doesn't take so much time to load. Okay, so it gives me the different options for orders. So I'm not going to use this empty carts. I'm going to use this one because this is actually a field one. So I'll just download this. If it doesn't take so much time, just free download. also. So I have that. Then I can also bring that to PowerPoint, just insert pictures, this device, and I can come to downloads. That's the shopping cart, insert. Then I'll also ensure it's 0.5, right? Because it's actually 0.5 we're using. I'll just ensure it's 0.5 also, right? I'll place it. So I'm using a field icon. Okay. Now, the reason I said I love using flat icon, for example, is because what happens if my icon color, I don't want them to be black. Let's say I want my icon color to be this blue I have here. This light, this blue I have here. That's what I want my icon color to look like. Okay, that's fine. So this is the shape. Then I select eye drop. Then I'll just select this color. Yeah, okay. Now I want my icon color to be this blue here. I can actually go back. Now that I have this color code, I can grab this color code now and come to format, more colors. This is the color code. I'll just copy it. I've copied the color code. I can go back to flat icon, right? If I decide that this is the icon I also want to use, I'll select it this time around. I won't download. I'll just select. Then I'll click on edit icon. Once I click on edit icon, I have the option to change the color of this icon. I'll just choose color here. I'll delete what is here and just paste the color code. So now I have my color option I want, the color choice I want. Then I click on download. I'll just choose PNG 64 and download. Then I can come back to PowerPoint. I can delete this. Let's say that's the color I want to use for all my icons. So I'm going to do that same thing for all my icons. Then, of course, I can come to downloads, shopping carts, and insert. So I have the blue icon. Reduce the size, make sure it's 0.5 like what we've been using before. Then I'll have something like this. So basically, this is what I would do for my layout. Just create my layout. Once I'm done, I can just screenshot this layout like this. Then I send it to Power BI and, of course, lay my visuals on top of it. That's basically what I do and how I come up with design. Everything we've talked about now, that's how I come up with my designs. I come up with my reports. You can see first-hand example here. This is the report I got the inspiration from. This is the layout I created, and this is the report I created in the end. Practical example. So with this, we are actually done. I hope the session was helpful. If you have any questions, you can go ahead and ask. I'll be able to provide answers to those questions. Like I said, I'll share the PowerPoint with you with the different designs. I'll share it right away immediately after the session and to be able to share it to you guys also.
Okay, thank you very much for that wonderful section. In fact, thank you for the insight and for opening our eyes to so many things. Please, if you have questions, just raise your hand. We have Abdullahi, right? Your hand is being raised, so you can ask your question.
All right. Thank you very much for this wonderful presentation. My question is to determine how your dashboard will look like. So let's say child deck. I know this has to do with deliveries. So let's say even if it's deliveries, right? What kind of conversation am I going to have, and who am I going to have this conversation with in order for me to determine what KPIs do I need to have and how my dashboard report should look like?
So typically, right, if you're working in a business setting, whatever setting you're working, right? So
Yeah.
think about it this way. Why do we collect data? Data gives us information about whatever business we're doing, because the data, before we even decide to collect data about a particular business, we must have sat down together to determine that, okay, this is the type of data we want to collect. We must have done more like a database, data modeling kind of thing. Because if you think about it, data modeling is basically you saying, I want to start a business and it's centered on entities and their attributes, right? Entities are just representation of your business, and you say you want to collect information about these entities, right? Then the attribute of these entities, right? Now, for example, I have a friend that wants to start what is it called? A shawarma business. He wants to start selling shawarma, right? He already has a spot. Now, we determined what are the entities within this shawarma business, right? Then we said, okay, your shawarma business, first, you need to have customers. Then what are the attributes of these customers? We say, oh, name. We just need they really don't necessarily want to give us their name sometimes. Okay, yes, we want to collect their name, want to collect their phone number, their email, and all that, right? Then, of course, what is the next entity we identified? The product. So when a customer comes, makes a purchase, when we're done with all this, the next thing my friend now asks himself, why are we collecting this information? We want to know how this business is faring, right? So what are the KPIs we need to track for this, my friend's shawarma business? What do you think are the KPIs we need to track? So the KPIs we're tracking for his business currently is we're tracking his customers, right? Then we're tracking his customer base. In terms of customer base, we want to see, one, how his customers are, the increase in his customers. Then we go further to see. The reason we collected the information about customers is, are they returning customers, right? Right? Are they returning customers? Now, for his business also, we have different flavor. I don't know if it's flavor now. We have different types of shawarma. The one they made with goat meat, with chicken, the one with sausage, the one without sausage, the one with cabbage, and all different types. So we're also tracking which out of the orders we receive on a daily basis, which flavor or which type is actually in demand, right? Now we have also spicy one and non-spicy ones, right? So which one is actually in demand? In the end, the conversation I had with my friend, because I'm the data analyst, he doesn't know anything about data. We've had this conversation. We've designed his database. We've designed the information we want to collect. Now we now have just 5 KPIs we want to track. Those KPIs are the customers, the sales, right? The of course the product, right? Then we are also tracking few information about the location. So on a weekly basis, my friend calls me. He has his report already, because as they're entering those information, he's seeing his reports, and there's a more like a dashboard for him already. For that week, he's able to automatically see if there were new customers. So in the end, we know how many new customers did we have for this week, because the new customers tells him he's covering the coverage he's having. You know, if customers keep asking for your product, that means you're doing something right, right? Now, returning customers. So we always want to know on a weekly basis how many of our old customers return to us. Now, we want to know how much did we sell. Remember, he has a cost already. He knows how much he spent in purchasing whatever he used, in producing whatever he produced. So he's pegging his cost against his sales to determine his profits, right? So we're tracking all that. That's the conversation we have. So the report is a very simple report with just KPI cards up there and a weekly to weekly change to say there's a plus, there's a negative change. Now, the only thing we did differently was to say we want targets, right? The target is these things he uses producing his shawarma. Sometimes they get spoiled, right? So he has a target and says, before the end of this month, I want to make sure that I gain at least 50 new customers. And I want to make sure that out of my old customers on a weekly basis, like I should have 100 returning customers. Right. We also have feedback. We receive feedback from these customers also. So that is how depends on the industry, depends on the scenario. For me, I work in a logistics industry. So my conversations, because of the department I'm in, my department is majorly responsible for delivery. So the conversations around my department, around the reports I create, are always about how efficient is our delivery. Are we delivering? You know, there's always an SLA. service level agreement, right? If a customer purchases something from you, it's expected that this thing, you should take, there's a particular time, say, okay, there are customers you even order from online. When you order from Amazon, you see, they'll tell you, even Jumia, they'll tell you you are going to get your product within 3 to 5 days time, right? It depends on the type of order you selected. Is this standard or whatever? Now, if you don't get it within that time, they breached the SLA agreement already. So think of the data they will be collecting. They will be collecting information to see of all their delivery, how many of them did they breach SLA and why did they breach the SLA? So they can fix those issues, because you can send something to me that is supposed to come to me on Friday, then you are bringing it to me after 3 days. I can return it and tell you that I don't want anymore. So imagine for every time they breach SLA, people return their products. It's a problem for them. They are losing sales. And remember, you've already paid for the logistics for that thing to be delivered to you. That means you are losing already. It applies to every sector. If it's health tech sector, if it's finance, even banks. So those times, so the time you go to the bank to lay a complaint and they tell you within 2 to 3 days they will resolve it, and after 1 week they've not resolved it, you've already breached an SLA. There's somebody that presents a report to the customer operations lead every month to say that, oh, we have 1,000 tickets were opened. For the 1,000 tickets, we're able to attend to maybe 700 within SLA, then 300 we breach SLA. The next question is, what happened? Why did you breach SLA? Which department is responsible? It goes down and boils down to which agent is responsible. What was the issue? How do we resolve it? Just like that.
All right. Thank you very much. I think most of the question I wanted to ask next has been answered.
Okay.
But lastly, regarding the KPI, so you said if there are more than 5, right? We'll just like choose the 5 most sensitive or most important, right? Or let's say 6.
Yeah, so if there are more than 6, right, you can choose the 6 most important ones that you want your report user to get your report user's attention. And there are also situations where you can incorporate a card visuals within the report, right? You can incorporate it within the report. There's a way you can incorporate it, but you should always make it look neat and good. You know, those reports I showed you, there are some situations. There's one report we opened, I can't remember. I just hope I have it open. There's one report we opened not quite long that it's purple in color also. We have more than one KPI card. Right. Look at this report, for example. This is one, this is one, this is one. But look at these are looking more like card, but they are well placed. They are well placed and organized. You can see, so you can easily just spot what's going on. Yeah, you can have more than 6, but that principle is just, I think it's just my principle though, of me saying I want just 6 max. Then I can incorporate any other one within the report. Then also, don't go munch everything in your report into one page. You can always leverage on, structure your report in a way that, okay, I can present these 6 KPI cards here. If I'm tracking other KPIs, I can take it to another page, right? But then factor in priority, which one should come first, scale of preference. So the most serious ones to the less serious ones, just like that.
All right. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Okay. Denike, a question.
All right, Isaiah, thank you. Hi, Efasa, good evening. Thank you so much for that wonderful session. That's quite interactive. So my question is, what's your take on bringing in images, and using them as a background in your reports? Because the reason I'm asking is because I've seen a couple of reports, right, that they bring in images and use those images as a background, right? And most times they don't really come out really nice. They don't really come out nice. So instead they end up distracting and spoiling the data storytelling. So I don't know. I just want to understand. What do you think?
So let me put it to you this way. of all the reports I've created in an organizational settings in the recent, I don't think anybody will tell you to go and put one big image in your report. Stakeholders typically they don't have time for that. They don't want to see image. Just give them 1 or 2 visuals, max maybe 4, 6 visuals in one of the reports, first page of the report page, and they are good to go. They don't necessarily need the image, but there are times you can incorporate the image with your report and make it look it will add to your story, right? It doesn't throw off the story, right? If I saw a report sometime not quite long, I wanted to actually create a report. It had this image of it's about electric bicycle sales, right? So for the different brands of bicycle, when you select a particular brand, you see the image and the design of that bicycle. Then you see the different colors option you have for it, right? So that image within that report, that scope of that report, it helps communicate what is it called? Communicates the story also. So I created a report not quite long also, and I embedded it's a health report also. Then I embedded the image of more like the disease condition, how it looks like, right? I did that to also tell the story. So when a lame user looks at the report and probably selects obesity, you see a picture of someone that is actually looking obese, and you see a very small definition of how obesity looks like, right? Now, even for this child deck report, I have an image here, right? But I'm careful to put the image. If you see, the image, this is an image actually, right? But the image, I'm also very careful to make sure that it's not the center of the story. I just incorporated it here to just keep the report more like, so if you select medications, you automatically know that when you're seeing improved health life, whatever category you're looking at here is actually speaking about health because you can see pills. So if I select another category and say drink and beverages, the image automatically changes, right? If I select food, the image changes. If I select groceries, the image changes. Now, the image is actually part of the story I'm trying to communicate, but is not the center stage. You can see the way I incorporated it here. Quite simple. It's not, I'm not bringing this image and the image is just this big and occupying one space here that I don't even know how to explain anymore, right? Now, images is okay to incorporate them clean and neat in your report and make sure they communicate the story. You don't just put them there because you want to put them there or because it makes the report beautiful, right? No, that's not the goal. And to be honest with you, when you are creating reports for stakeholders, most time, I don't think they need images. They really, I don't think, I've not seen a situation where they need, but it depends on your target audience, right? If the image, like I said, will help communicate the message, you can actually leverage on it, but use them. You're careful when you're using them and don't make sure that they take the center stage of the report also.
All right, thank you very much. I quite understand what you're explaining, but that's not what I'm trying to ask. So what I'm asking is,
Okay.
so people that they use they bring the images right into their canvas, and they use the image as the background before they now start their layouts, like before they start their
Oh. So what you're trying to say now, for example, say I want to create a report that has to do with car. So I bring in the car image,
as your
right?
background.
As my background, then I create. So so those images can be, so I don't really support that. The reason I said I don't support that, they can be distracting a lot,
Yeah,
right?
and that is what I've noticed.
Yeah, they can be distracting a lot, right? Most of the reports I create are just simple plain white background or even dark background. Is even now I'm trying to lean towards creating reports with dark background also, but it's always the plain white Canva. I don't think the people that designed this Canva that gave us a white Canva to create our report, I think they know what they were doing when they gave us the white Canva or give us the option. But now, for example, you want to create a report and the report is about, let's say restaurant, for example, or say, for example, now that I'm saying Chow Deck, right? Restaurant image. Then I just bring in, since it's Chow Deck or restaurant, then I bring in this big image. Is distracting for the times I've seen it. Is always distracting. It's only on very few occasions that I've seen people use this and they used it in a way that is not so distracting. But for most of the times I've seen it in reports, it's always very distracting. Now I come and I probably will just come to the wallpaper now and bring that image. Then fit, then yeah, something like this, right? Then you create your report. No, it's always very distracting to me. So if you're going to do something like this, I think you should be very, very careful so you don't get it wrong. Any other
All right.
question? You're welcome.
Okay. Any other question? Thank you so much, Fasa, for this wonderful session on behalf of Data Jobs Nigeria.
Thank you.
The bootcamp being organized by Mr. Benga. I want to say thank you so much for this. Now,
Thank you too.
I'm sure we have learned one or two things. We will continue next week on 6th is Saturday by 8:00 p.m. in the evening. Like I said, I've told us that we are wrapping up everything this September and we'll be having both Saturday and Sunday just to wrap up things on time. So please note it down. And secondly, I will say this, that I think it's good we come to the class 5 minutes before the instructor arrive. I think it's just a way to honor the person coming to give you this training free of charge. Most of us were late today, and I don't think that's okay. So I hope we work on that for our subsequent section. The session is being recorded as usual, and once Mr. Benga has uploaded the video, you will definitely get the update as usual. All right. Thank you once again, our lovely instructor. We say big thank you to you. We cherish you. We appreciate you. Thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
All right.
All
So
right,
let's implement some of these things.